Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast. This episode is going to be with Thomas, the Basement Decorator. If you don't know who he is, he runs a very, very popular TikTok page and Instagram page. He puts out a lot of good content. And I heard about him on Working Class Bow Hunters episode they did with him earlier this year. And I figured, dude, why not try to get him on? So reached out to him, was able to schedule this. And I'm very excited to, get him on and talk about everything he's been getting into. I know he's been very busy hunting. And we are going to figure out what basement decorator means. So as you can see in my basement, I need some decorations done. So maybe I'll get some ideas. But yeah, man, the season's been really going good. Saw a nice 10-point a week ago that I almost had a shot on, but he never turned broadside and it was getting really dark. So wasn't able to connect on that. Hunted last week, saw a young 7-point that's got really good potential. So things are looking up. The Bear Whitetail Max behind me has been shooting great. Really, really like that bow. It's a couple things I would change, but for what it is and how much it costs and what it's able to do, I am over the moon about it. I really hope you guys have enjoyed last week's episode with Hoyt. Evan was a great guest, and I'm really looking forward to getting him on. And then, of course, the week before that, we had Kurt on. As you guys know, I always love getting Kurt on there because it's always a good time. And he had an amazing season. So hopefully you guys are having a good season. Hopefully everyone's showing respect to the game that we all pursue. Deer season is coming to a close soon, unfortunately. So if you haven't connected on that buck that you're after, like I haven't, hopefully you get to. And if you guys are looking to get any new bows, all the new models have dropped. Today is actually the 10th. Prime just dropped their new form bow, which I think looks really cool. So yeah, there's tons of different things to choose from. So before we get into it with Thomas, we got to do the partners. So Working Class Bow Hunter, clearly that is one that I still am kind of in shock about, but they have some amazing products. Amazing merchandise that you guys can get. Obviously, I'm ripping the hat. I always am trying my best to rep those guys as best I can. Help get the word out down here in Georgia about them, and they just have really good stuff, really cool designs. So use the code SEBH15 at checkout in order to save 15% on all the merchandise. And look, man, just be repping the good stuff, right? Next up is gonna be Boutique. Michael Stonebreaker makes some of the best wraps in the industry. The quality is fantastic, and I am very blown away by what he's able to do. He can literally make anything a wrap. It's insane. So go to theboutiquellc.com, either get a custom order or order what he's already made, and use the code SEBHP for free shipping at checkout. Osseo gear, as you guys know, I'm a huge Osseo fan. Been working with Joe now for almost 2 years, and really, really great company. The camo patterns are extremely sick. Probably my favorite on the market, to be honest with you. It's just so different, and the idea behind it, the designs, all of that stuff, and the comfort and the quietness, it's just a really, really good product. I think that if you guys are looking to change your camo up, Osseo is definitely someone you should consider. So go to osseogear.com, and if you decide you want to get some, use the code SEBH, and that will save you 15%. Check out the entire site. Summit Tree Stands, once again, been with them for almost 2 years now. And, Summit is an amazing company, make a great product. Their climbers are second to none. Their hang-ons are extremely nice. And they literally cover you from climbers to hang-ons to accessories to gosh, I'm drawing a blank now, to harnesses, which we all need to be wearing. Just great quality. Okay, so highly recommend you give someone a shot. If you want to get a new stand, get some accessories, whatever you're looking at, use the code SEBH15 for 15% off site-wide over there as well. Next up is going to be Scout Tech. My boys, Ryan and his family, they're out in like Kansas or somewhere hunting whitetails. Last I heard, they haven't gotten anything down yet, but I'm sure that they will. But Scout Tech is a it's basically a camera software company. We've done a couple episodes with them, and I've been using them now for about a year. They work great. Beautiful quality photos. And I do know Ryan actually dropped it on the podcast. I think they are coming out with their own camera in 2025. So really looking forward to that. Can't wait to use that. And there's a lot more coming with them. So keep an eye out. Go to scouttech.com and look at everything they have to offer. I really, really think you guys are going to like it. Next up is going to be Ace Hardware and Social Circle. They cover everything. Okay, they've got cameras, camo, bows, arrows, broadheads, anything you need. They also will tune your bow for you. They have a 20-yard range in there that you can use to at least set your 20 and make sure your bow is shooting right for you. They have, I mean, seriously, they cover everything. So if you feel like making the drive, if you don't live close to Social Circle, it's definitely worth it. John, Mark, Hunter, all the boys over there, really, really great guys. Some of my really good friends, and they always take care of me if I need to go in there and get something tuned or just hang out and shoot some new bows, or just see some of the new products they've got in there. Which again, they cover everything: bows, camo, all of that. They actually just started stocking up on the Beast Broadhead. So if you're a fan of the Beast Head, go and check them out. Like I said, they have everything that you would want. So please go support a small business, your local bow shop, whether it's Ace or anywhere. Doesn't matter. Go support those guys because they are the lifeblood of the archery industry, in my opinion. Next up is going to be Bergie Bowsmith, talking about tuning bows. Now, if we're going to transition to that a little bit, Bergie is the guy to go to. If you want your bow tuned to perfection, and I say perfection, meaning that if you don't like it, he will do it for you and make sure that you're happy, or he will at least, and he's told me this many times, he's coming on next week. Bergie will make sure that you are happy with how your bow is shooting. And if you send him a video of you shooting and he sees any problems with your form or anything like that, he will tell you. And he's just telling you that in order to make you a better shooter, because Bergie has a certain process he goes through that works on every single bow. He is also a dealer for a lot of the companies that we all use. So go to bergiebowsmith.com and use the code SEBH10 to save you 10% site-wide. All right, broadheads. Let's talk broadheads. VPA is an American-made broadhead company that I have been partnered with now for about a year. They have over 70 different choices, all fixed blades, I want to say all of them are one-piece material. I could be forgetting a couple, but I'm pretty sure none of them are replaceable blades except the Omega with bleeders. They also offer a lifetime warranty on the broadhead. So if you shoot one into a rock and it breaks, all you got to do is send a photo of it to Ryan or Jeff or their customer service, and you will get a brand new broadhead free of charge. I don't know of any other company that does that. So they have a lot coming. I know that it's been a while since I've talked to them, mainly because I've been so busy. I know they've been busy, but there's definitely some things coming down the line for 2025. So once I hear about that, I'll let you guys know. But right now, if you go to vparchery.com and you put in the code SEBH10, saves you 10% site-wide. Okay, so that's everything out there. Next up is going to be dialed archery. I talk about it every week. I love my dialed Arxos. Dialed stepped it up again with the new proof sight. It is basically the Arxos, but improved, which in my opinion, I don't see how they did that. But from what I've been hearing, and what I've been seeing, it's definitely better. I do plan on getting Scott back on the podcast to talk about everything that they changed with this new site. And I do know that there is more stuff than just the site coming. So keep an eye out for dialed archery. If you want to check out one, you can customize both Arxos and proof to whatever color pattern you want. I know they have the Mossy Oak Bottomland small batch coming out. I know Working Class is working on a small batch of some sort, and just a lot of things happening with dialed. So go to dialedarchery.com, look at everything that they've got, and pick it out for you. You're not going to be disappointed. Next up will be Camo Dust, and I say it once a week again. That I'm sure some of y'all that listen to this are probably sick of me talking about it. Chris just came on for an episode not too long ago, and we sort of, I got to be honest, man, I've used a lot of different scent control products. Camo Dust by far is the best one that I've used. It just works. Okay, I've had multiple times this year where the wind shifts, where I just feel like going hunting and going to try and kill a doe, or maybe there's a buck, and I'm like, dude, I need to be in there. I've trusted Camo Dust the entire season. I've trusted Camo Dust for over a year. I've only been blown out once, and that's because I did not use it right. Every other time if I've got blown at, it's either walking in or they caught me moving and I didn't know they were there, and all I was doing was adjusting. But that is it. There's a testament to it to say that two of my buddies that use Camo Dust have killed over 15. One of them has killed 16 Pope and Young deer. The other one has killed 35 or 33 or something like that. So just saying. I think it works. If you give it a shot, I think you will too. Go to camodust.com, and I recommend you get the the 6-pack, because it will last you an entire hunting season. Unless you hunt every single day, then you might want to get 2 of those. But great product. It works. Believe it or don't, that's up to you. But if you give it a shot and you do it right, you will not be disappointed. I can promise you that. Last but not least, it can be Full Force Hunting Products. That is a Michigan-based hunting product company that my buddy Dan owns and runs, and he sells a bunch of different scents. He has his own scent rope. He's got his own special formula of mock scrape stuff that he likes to use. And I know that, look, I've been partnered up with Nose Down for probably about a year, right? I still use their stuff. Dan has some really good stuff too. Okay, so both of those companies, if you want to use either one, you can use them both. Use both. I've used both, and it works. Okay, it's a great combination. But Dan doesn't only do scents; he also does minerals. He does attractants, and that's what really intrigued me about Dan's company, Full Force, because in Georgia we get to bait, and I want to try a bunch of different bait tactics, and he's got some carrion stuff you can use. And it works. I mean, I had Trike Daylight back when he was around on one of Dan's products. So I don't know, man. I feel like they work. I think it's a good product. Dan's a great dude, and so I definitely recommend you guys go check him out. That's all the partners. Okay, that was kind of a long one. I haven't gone in depth on this stuff in a while because a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm so tired of long intros." I get it, man. I get it. A lot of the podcasts I listen to, I skip those anyway. But I'm trying to help you save some money. I'm trying to help these guys make a buck here and there, and we're all a team in this, right? So it's necessary, and honestly, with all of these amazing partners that I've got, I love bringing you guys updates and stuff. It's just exciting for me because I have people reach out and say, "Oh, I got this or I got that. I used your code for this," and they're really happy with it. So hopefully y'all listening are doing that. If not, and you're sick of me talking about it, I'm sorry, but I got to do it. Okay, so obviously before we get into this with Thomas, every single episode, no matter who it is, I have to bring it up. I have to bring it up. If you don't know who Jesus Christ is, I really, really recommend that you give him a shot. Open your mind up to it. Open your heart up to it. If you're going through something right now and you feel like you have nobody there that's with you, I promise you he is. This year has been wild, not just for the podcast, not just for hunting. It's been wild for the family. Okay. A lot of things have happened in my personal life that without Jesus, I don't think I would have got through. There's still days where I, for whatever reason, feel, down about something or start thinking about some mistake I made a while ago, and it really gets to me. And he's there to get me out of it every single time. Okay. So look, I'm not going to push it down your throat, but I don't think it'll hurt. And I think, honestly, those of you who have not done it yet, if you give them a shot, I really think that, you are going to see a change in your life and you are going to be much, much happier. So that's the entire intro. I know Thomas is waiting for us. So let's go ahead and get started with Thomas from Basement Decorator. On Instagram or TikTok, then you know who this guest is. Puts out amazing content. Really awesome dude. Heard him on Working Class Bow Hunter. I was like, I need to get him on here. We got Mr. Thomas from Basement Decorator. And one of the things I want to ask you right off the rip is, what does Basement Decorator mean?
Well, so it means a lot. It's kind of morphed. I think I started this during COVID. No, I started it right before COVID. I started it December right before COVID. And I was literally sitting in the basement with my brother, and this wall behind me was full of deer, and he was like, "You should do something on Instagram." And I was like, "I don't even know what Instagram is."
Yeah.
And he was like, "You should come up with a catchy name." And he was like, "Don't do something outdoors or something like that." And my wife was like, "What do you think about when you walk up to a deer?" And I said, "Well, how's he going to look on the basement wall?"
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Well, you're a basement decorator." So, it was funny when it first came out, like people were catching on with it and having a lot of fun with the name. And Kurt, when I was on Working Class, he was like, "It is the greatest name in social media," because I know exactly what it means.
Yeah.
Which, that's a high compliment. But, there were people like, "Well, what if I don't have a basement?" I mean, a basement decorator, to me, means honoring the animal,
Yep.
no matter the size. and, paying the respects and, having those memories for life to look at every time you walk in whatever room you want to put your deer in. So,
Yeah. Yeah, see, when I first heard about you, I was like, okay, so does he decorate basements for a living? Is he remodeling
yeah,
basements?
yeah,
Like, is
no,
this your job? I mean, so what do you do?
I work in sales.
Oh, okay.
So I work for a pharmaceutical company.
Oh,
But
nice.
yeah, I mean, I always tell everyone I work so I can hunt.
Yeah.
And
I feel like a lot of us do.
yeah, it's if I could, I've been off. I don't know how many. I've probably been off 20 days in November. So
Good Lord.
um, yeah, I save up all my vacation every year for November. So
See, I
I'm
try to do that. And then the family is like, hey, by the way, we're going to Colorado in the
yeah,
end of January. And I'm like, y'all do realize, like, we've got a planned trip this coming
yeah,
year because all of us are turning 30, like me, my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law. And it's like, my mother-in-law was like, what would you like to do for your 30th? I'm like, well, a little help to get me on an out-of-state hunt would be nice. Like if I
yeah,
could, just throw me a bone here. I want to
yeah,
go to Ohio, Illinois, whatever. She's like, oh, well, what if we went to Colorado? I'm like, I'll hunt Colorado. And she's like, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but can you hunt in January? I'm like, no. I was like, I don't even think you can fly into Colorado in January.
you know,
Like,
no, it
and they're
would be
all like,
rough.
oh, well, we're gonna get this this van. I forget what she said it was, like one of the express vans. And I was like, do those have four-wheel drive and snow tires? And she was like, probably not. I'm like, well, then you don't need to get that. I was like, you need something that's got four-wheel drive. If you're talking about Colorado in the dead of winter, that's at least 10 foot of snow right there.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah,
good luck. So I don't know,
yeah.
man. I don't even we'll
That
see how that
yeah,
goes.
it's kind of evolved for me over the years. I've been lucky over the past probably 10, 12 years to develop
Mhm.
a lot of different relationships. And um, I go to Missouri every year. I go to West Virginia every year, and I go to Texas every year.
Mm,
Um, and I've just been very, it's nothing I did. I've just been in the right place, right time, and just met
yeah.
some good people. And, um, each place has got its own thing, but I love going to all of those places. So,
Yeah, Texas is definitely on the list, man, because I grew up watching bucks of Tecumate and
yeah, me
seeing those
too.
those deer, and I'm just like, God dang, those don't look like what we have here. I mean, it's a whole nother animal. So
It is. And for a guy from the Southeast, and you probably would feel the same way when you do get to go. I'll never forget. The first time I went was 11 years ago, and or 10 years ago, something like that. But I didn't know what to shoot. Like you see more bucks in one hunt than you see in 3 seasons hunting in North Carolina.
really,
So I mean, it was like they're like, don't shoot the first hunt. I'm like, but that's the biggest deer I've ever seen. You know. So
yeah, and they're like, yeah, but we've got like 30 that are bigger.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
crazy, man.
yeah,
Yeah. So okay, so I want to talk about your season, man, because we were kind of talking about it
yeah.
a little bit beforehand. You said that you killed two bucks, but that it's been a very long season. So like take me to opening or before opening day, what all you had planned and where you're at now.
Well, so where I hunt in North Carolina is what they call CWD primary zones. And don't get me started on CWD. That'll take up the whole hour. But
I mean, we could talk about it because I've got my
yeah,
opinions too.
yeah. But anyway, we used to I've got a lot of small parcels. I think my biggest parcel in North Carolina is 200 acres. But on these smaller parcels, like I've got this 140-acre property that has big buck every year.
Mhm.
And, leading up to the past 2 years, every year, what I would do is all of July and August, I would have tons of bait out and I'd have tons of cameras running and I would know, who's there, what's coming in. And what they've done in North Carolina is you can no longer bait until September 1st. So then you're like, and I follow the rule
Yeah.
because yeah, not that I am important or really make any money off of this, but I put enough stuff out there with my opinion where people may want to try to get me in trouble.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm going to follow the rules, and there's a lot of people that don't.
Yeah.
So it's harder for me to game plan for that beginning of the season, but leading up into this year, I had some cameras on some white oak flats, and they were dropping pretty early this year. It was a crazy mass crop, like one of the biggest I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I had two really good bucks on this one property that I could have killed first week. I hunted opening day. They didn't come in. They daylighted 4 days in a row. And I
Oh,
just
wow.
happened to be in Dallas, Texas at a work meeting. So there's no doubt in my mind I could have killed him. One of the bucks I had two encounters with this year, and both times he's probably he's only a six. I say only a six. He's a really big six. And I've had him on camera for 3.5 years, and he's a bully.
Yeah.
And we had a deer that was a really, really big deer on this property. And anytime the six would show up, the big deer would leave. So I was like, I've got to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's 6.5 for a reason. And I had him at 25 yards twice. First time he saw me drawn. Second time, it was like October 15th, and he was already bumping does, and he ran right through my lane. So it just didn't happen. But
Yeah, dude, I don't know what's going on this year with the 6-pointers, but
there's
there's a lot. Like
yeah.
I had 1 6 that I'd been chasing for 2 years, and I'm pretty sure he's dead now. That my daughter named Trike, and he had a 130-inch frame all day long, right?
Oh wow.
And I had this deer. I've told the story so many times. People that listen every week are going to be like, "Dude, really again?" But it's because it was so crazy. Like I had this deer completely trained, right? I'd go put food out at the spot. It's on 1 acre, and it's over by a lake. So people call them like neighborhood deer, I guess.
Yeah.
But I had this deer where I would come driving in, and I'd put food out, and 2 minutes later, here he comes. Like after I leave, here he comes down, and he's just feeding all day long. I mean, I had does to the point where they would hear my truck and come running out of the woods and follow me down to where I was going. It was crazy. And he was a big six I was after. One of my buddies killed a 130-inch six this year, 20 minutes from my house. Another one had a really, really big 6-point on his camera. Some dude in Georgia killed like, I forget how big it really was, but it was a massive 6-point. I'm seeing 6-points everywhere.
Yeah.
Like what is up with that?
We had one killed in West Virginia while I was there. A buddy of mine killed one. I bet you this deer was 22 inches wide. It was the biggest 6-point I've ever seen in my life. And he was new to this lease, and he was like, "Is it okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, we would have all shot that deer." So it was a great buck. But yeah, I mean, leading up to this season, I had really focused on two properties, and I was telling you earlier, I did get 2 bucks in North Carolina this year. One of them I thought was the six.
Yeah.
He came running in behind a doe. It was like October 27th. And it was one of those split-second decisions, and I smoked him. But I tell you, something really cool happened to me in that moment, because my instinct would have been, ever since being on social media, everyone thinks I got to, I even caught myself doing this last year, where you try to outdo everything that you've done, and it's all about the antlers, and you forget the purpose and, the real reason that you're out there. And I had been, I'll admit it on here, I had been struggling with like mental health stuff. And I was having, not as much time in the woods. I was very busy in September and October, and that deer came in and I smoked him. He fell like 5 yards from where I shot him. And normally I would have walked up and been like, "You idiot, that's a 2.5-year-old. Why in the world did you shoot it?" And
Yeah.
I sat down and I felt such joy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, that feels good.
Yep.
And I don't need to apologize to anyone, because I shot that deer because I wanted to shoot it. And I thought it was a different deer, but it doesn't matter. And that's where I was talking about in the beginning, honoring every deer. I just sat down and I was in tears. I was like, man, I'm so grateful for bow hunting, because like the day-to-day of life can catch up to all of us. And as a hunter, we have a place. It's not free. It costs more than anything else I do.
Yep.
But we have a place to go get our head right. And in that moment, it really kind of took me back, like, before I even started chasing bigger deer. And
Yeah.
and I was like, this is just fun. So
What's funny about that is I felt that exact same feeling earlier this year when I shot a doe, and it's just a doe, right?
yeah, yeah,
But I walk up to her, and I'm not gonna lie, I did tear up a bit just because everything that's been, I mean, I said it in the intro. It's been a rough year over here, like with
yeah,
family and a bunch of stuff that's happened, and to be able to go in there, freeze my butt off because I was cold, dude. Like it was our probably first real cold front we had. Me
hmm,
being me, not really thinking about it, I go in there with all my early season stuff on. And so I'm sitting there shivering, and I was able to put this doe down. She died 30 yards from where I shot her. And I just walked up and I just took a minute and was just like, I just looked up. I was like, thank you. It was like, I needed
yeah,
this. And that's the
yeah,
thing. Like you were saying earlier, you try to outdo yourself. Dude, I do that every single year. I start the year off like, all right, the deer back here is the biggest one I've killed. He's got 3 brow tines on one side, 2 brow tines on the other. He's technically an 11 point, but he's not any big. I think his score was like 102.
yeah,
And so this year I was like, all right, man, Pope and Young or that big six I'm after. That's what I want. And now it's like
yeah,
I almost shot a 2-year-old 7 point last week. It's like
yeah,
it's just it's weird. And I feel like, you being on social media, I'm on social media. I don't know if you see it, but I see nothing but big bucks. And I feel like it's kind of influencing everyone that's on there to and it's somewhat a good thing to pass younger bucks, but it's also making people who shoot the smaller bucks feel like lesser of a hunter, in my opinion, because they're not
yeah.
shooting a 180-inch deer.
I think one thing I've done, and I've done this since day one, since I started my Instagram, and I think it was 2019. Um, I have never shared a score of a buck I've killed. Um, and the big reason is I do score every deer that I kill,
Yeah,
but I do it for me. I
yeah,
do it for me because it's like this challenge to myself. And don't get me wrong, I love chasing big bucks, but I think a lot of people will get like you said, we grew up, both of us, watching Tecumate.
hmm,
You hunt in Georgia mostly, I hunt in North Carolina mostly. We're never going to have that.
no,
And so many people will look at that, and they look at the juries, and they look at Lee Lukoski and all these great, Michael Waddell, all these great ambassadors to hunting, and they think I've got to do that.
hmm,
You've got to hunt like you can't kill a big buck if you don't have a big buck on your property.
yeah,
And every year you want to improve your property and stuff like that, but you got to set goals for yourself, and don't ever apologize, you know, for what you've taken. You get, like I said, you got to honor that animal. So
yeah. I mean, I've gotten into it, and I'm not proud of it, but I've gotten into it on Facebook with people bashing a buddy of mine who killed a spike, and he was
yeah,
super happy about it. And it was,
yeah,
I forget what kind of hunt it was. It was some sort of quota hunt that he got drawn for. And dude, he called me. He was like, dude, I just shot a buck. It's a spike, man. I was like, dude, that's freaking awesome. I was
yeah,
like, that's great. And then he posted
yeah,
on Facebook, and everyone's like, oh, why'd you shoot that? And I finally went on there. I was like, listen, are you paying for his hunt? No. Do you own the land? No. So
yeah,
shut up. It doesn't
yeah,
matter. Be happy for him.
yeah. I
It's
mean, like I have places like when I go to Missouri, like this year, I bet you I passed 10 130-inch deer, but that's a place you can do it.
yeah,
You don't have to do it, but that's a place that at any moment in Northeast Missouri, you could have a mega giant walk by.
true.
And that's why I travel out of state to go there. Same
Yeah.
thing in Texas. Like I can't tell you how many 140, 150-inch deer I've passed there. Um, but when I'm in North Carolina, me and Jordan Jones, we always talk about it. We hunt 110, 120-inch eight corners. Every once in a while, you'll have one on camera that's 130, 140 inches. And,
Hmm.
you challenge yourself to go get that deer. But um, yeah, it really took me back. And when I walked up to that deer, I just it was just ultimate joy. And I'll tell you, he was a 96-inch buck.
I was just about to
And
ask you, what did he
yeah,
score?
yeah, he was a 96-inch buck. And, um, I loved every second of it. And I had another, not to jump ahead, but I had another moment this year that just really, up until then, I was like, this has been a crazy year. This has not been what I would call a productive, fruitful year. My son got his first deer. 2 weeks ago, and
Okay.
it was a 4-pointer, and he was holding it up like. Can you hear me, Otto?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, my AirPod. Let me
No, you're
turn this
good.
up. Is this
Yeah.
okay? And he was so proud of that deer. He wanted to
Yeah.
take every picture with it, every picture he had ever, every angle, and it was just such a cool moment. And it made this season the best season I've ever had in my life. So
Dude, that's so it's funny too, because like Jordan's kid killed, I think his kid tagged out, didn't he?
yeah, like
Yeah.
one
And I'm
weekend.
like, that the kid's got it. And seeing all these kids kill these really big deer or just even their first deer. I'm planning on taking my daughter, who will be 10 next year, on her first, like she's killing the animal hunt. And I'm excited because I've asked her, are you gonna gut it? I've run her through everything you gotta do, right? So
Yeah,
I'm like, listen, gotta be quiet. We have to control our scent. We have to be quiet going in. We have to do all these things. I was like, and if you shoot one, with all the practice you're going to get this summer, if you shoot one, because I'll let her use a crossbow, um, with all the practice that we're going to be doing, you need to make sure that shot is good.
yeah,
And if you kill one, you need to gut it. Now, obviously, I'm not going to let her do that, right?
yeah,
But just to see what she says. And she was cool with all of it except the gutting it part. I was like,
yeah,
"Are you sure?" I was like, it's not that bad. You just open its belly up and you do all this stuff." And she was like, "Is there blood?" I'm like, "Yeah, there's a lot of it." And she was
yeah,
like, "No, no, no, no." I'm like, "I'm kidding. I'll do the dirty work. Don't worry."
yeah,
And she's all for it. I'll show her pictures. She names all my deer except for like the really, really, really big ones.
yeah.
That I've got one. I've got two deer actually that I would say are probably Pope and Young, or one of them's definitely 130. The other's probably mid 120s. And one of them's got a split brow. The other one is a very boxy frame, so I named him Tyson. And every other deer she'll name, and they're the goofiest names. And I'm already picking deer out for her for next year. Like, all right, what do you want to name this one? Because we're gonna hunt him next year.
Yeah.
And she'll like there was a deer that she named 2 years ago called Bluey. Oh, after the little cartoon character. You know what this deer's name is?
What is it?
Pickles.
What was it?
Pickles.
Oh, that's great.
The most random stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just exciting, dude. Like I'm low key a little jealous of all my friends that are dads that their kids have killed, because I'm like, dude, I want that, you know?
It's an incredible dad moment. Like I had a GoPro video on us. I wanted to see how I reacted, see how he reacted. And
Mhm.
the coolest thing was to watch him grab the stock of the gun. I had it in a bog tripod. He didn't put his finger on the trigger till he was ready to shoot. He braced on the bog tripod. He did everything that I taught him, and he made a 65-yard shot, and he
Jeez.
clipped the top of the heart and both lungs.
Okay.
Oh, he hammered it, hammered
Dang.
it. So it was a really awesome moment.
Dude, that is awesome. You need to post that somewhere,
Yeah,
Instagram, because okay, I kind of want to transition because I just thought of something, that you being on TikTok, and I'm on TikTok, and I have to find a workaround for every single thing I post. How do you feel about how censored TikTok's either become or has been? Because I think I've gotten a strike maybe 15 times, and for some of the dumbest stuff.
yeah.
Like, how do
I
you do that?
when I first started TikTok, I dove into the rules, and I think in 3 years I probably had 2 videos taken down. Um, I'm hypersensitive to it. I don't ever have a weapon in it. I've never had them take anything down for like a mount or anything like that. If they do, then I would just appeal it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it is what it is, right? I think TikTok is a cesspool.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
but it's also like I've got some lifelong friends that I've met through TikTok.
Mhm.
Um, I had a couple videos that I made a couple years ago about this deer I called Spikezilla, and
Hell yeah.
they went really viral. They had like millions of views, and it created a lot of opportunities for me, and I got to meet a lot of cool people. And so, yeah, I get frustrated with it because there's stuff that I want to put on there, but
Yeah.
you just you just can't. And when my account got over 30,000 followers, I was like, okay, this could be something. So I kind of got a little more hyper vigilant with it.
Yeah.
And then I'm close to 60,000 followers now. But
Dang.
it's a weird algorithm because there was like a year period where everything I posted got over 100,000 views, and now a good video for me is like 20,000 views. And honestly, I could give two craps about that.
Yeah.
Like the
But it's
thing I
just the
like about
logistics
social
of it.
media is there is a platform, as long as I don't delete the app, that I'll be able to go back for years and years and years with my boys and kind of watch what I did along the way.
Mhm.
And you know, I've made a little bit of money off of it, and it's helped pay for some hunts and everything. But yeah, TikTok is what it is, and honestly, I think it's probably going away in January. So
Well, honestly, I'd be okay with it because this morning when Kurt's episode dropped, I had to edit up a really, really good video on Instagram because they don't really seem to care about any of it. I had
yeah,
every single deer that he sent me a photo of that he killed. And then when I went on TikTok, the editing is better, but all it is my logo, Kurt's logo, and a photo of him doing a little selfie in the tree. And I'm like, dude, I can't do anything with this.
oh, they took that down.
No, they didn't take it down, but
Oh,
it's just the viewership. So like I had let me actually look. There was one video, my highest, I guess, viewed video was Lord, the recap of like the season wrap up of the podcast, right? Like for Spotify and stuff. So I posted that and it got almost 4,000 views, which is the most I've ever had, right?
yeah,
Kurt's right now is sitting at 141, and everything below that, there's like one, maybe, yeah, there's one in the past 2 months I've had that's gotten 1,000. Everything else is like 5, 6, which isn't
yeah,
bad, but it's like I'm not doing anything different.
yeah,
So I don't know. I had one taken down. I kind of knew it was going to get taken down, but it was a podcast I did a few weeks ago with a buddy of mine, and he sent me a video of a deer that he shot. It was his first buck with a bow. And so it's just him drawing back. You can see the buck, and then he shoots, and you see the deer mule kick. And then the next clip is him, freaking out in the stand and stuff. Threw it together, threw a little Nickelback in the background, and was like, "Hey, dude, here you go." Right. And it was at almost 200 views in like 30 minutes. And then I get a notification, oh, this is your first, real strike. We took this down. And I'm like, for what? I was like, there's
yeah,
no blood or anything. So I went back, edited it a little bit. So when the arrow hits the deer and he kicks, it transitions right before that happens. So you see
yeah,
him shoot the bow, but you don't see the deer get hit. Perfectly fine. No
yeah.
problem. And I'm
Yeah, I've
just
had
like,
to do that. That's usually when I cut off my videos is because I don't film my hunts all the time, but like
mhm.
when I go to Missouri, West Virginia, and Texas, I usually do film because I hate self filming, but if I can have somebody in the tree with me,
Yeah,
yeah, I like to get the shot on film. So
I've tried it and it's way harder than I thought.
it is.
Way harder. And I'm
It,
already taking 15 minutes to set everything up in the tree anyway. And
yeah,
most of my spots are small and very, very close.
yeah,
So I just said to hell with it. I'm like, dude, maybe I'll film on public, but I can't. I literally can't because if I move my arm the wrong way to adjust something and that deer is looking at me, it's over. And I'm
yeah.
not wasting that. So kudos to you and Seek One and everybody else that does it because I, I ain't that guy.
Yeah, I tried self filming for one season, and that was enough. And
Yeah.
it just messed up too much for me. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'4", 265. So it's hard enough for me to hide up in a tree without, these crackhead deer that we have around here in North
Oh,
Carolina trying to move something. So,
yeah,
um,
that is one thing that I consistently tell people that haven't hunted Georgia. Because so coming up, I've only been bow hunting for 4 years, hunting for 5 years. Or I guess this is my sixth season. So in that time frame, I started off listening to Working Class, listening to Southern Outdoorsman, Meat Eater, like all that other stuff, right? And every year I hear people say, "Oh, well, my deer are the toughest ones to hunt," right? And a lot of the stuff I listen to is Midwestern stuff because
yeah,
that's just where the majority of it is. And I had to learn really quickly that the Midwestern stuff doesn't work for us down here. These deer are so high strung, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, Midwest deer keep you honest, but they, I think the difference is body size, honestly. Like, it's harder for a 270-pound animal to jump away quickly versus, our
Sure.
bucks are the big ones are 200 pounds.
Yeah.
So I think they're just a lot more agile. And like, I think it has a lot to do with Southern culture too.
Yeah.
Um, every deer that I hunt has probably been shot at, and probably most of the shots were at night. So,
That seems to track quite a bit. So
yeah.
that is yeah, that's I'll tell you this quick story that goes along with that. So oh God, I probably shouldn't say this on the podcast actually. Yeah, I'll tell you when we get off real quick because I now that I think about it, it's not smart to say this, but let's just say I know of some stuff like that that
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
potentially happen.
I mean, it's a culture. It's not a culture I'm a part
Unfortunately.
of, but there's people that do dumb stuff. So
Yeah, like CJ Alexander. Anyway, that dude, me and Kurt, that whole episode we did was back and forth with that whole CJ thing. I really need to stop, but it comes out every single time almost, and it's too easy. It's just
yeah.
too easy.
Yeah, I
So
hope he learned his lesson. I'm a big believer in, second chances and everything, but that that was bad. So
yeah, I mean, I've said it before, and I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole, but I'll end this whole thing with this. My issue was not fully what he did. It's the fact that he was like, oh, well, God decided to bless me with this. And he made up this whole
yeah,
story. And I'm like, bro, you can lie about how you did it, but don't bring Big Dog into it if you
no,
didn't do it right. Like
yeah.
that's where my issue stands. So, but speaking of issues and stuff, one thing we were talking about in the beginning of or before we even started recording was the rut. So I thought I was the only one having a crappy rut, like the weirdest rut that I've ever seen. What's it like for you guys up there? What have you guys been seeing?
So I was off 3 days last week, and we saw a couple bucks cruising. Had a couple opportunities at a couple good deer. Let me say this before somebody catches me. I applied for CWD tags, and one of the bucks I killed this year was with the CWD tag. So that's how I'm still hunting bucks in North Carolina because
Oh,
we only have 2 buck tags. So I was awarded
okay.
CWD tags on one property, and I used one. But yeah, I mean, I was telling you, when I was in Missouri, my whole bow hunting life, I've always heard Midwest, November 6th, 7th, 8th.
Yep.
Anyone that knows anything about Midwest hunting will say those are the best dates. And I, there was other guys that were with me on this trip. It's a buddy of mine's property. There was 4 of us, and they saw some chasing. I saw 82 does by themselves. Like I was seeing does that still had fawns and yearlings with them. Um, it ended up being a joke because I go to West Virginia a couple weeks later and it was like the same thing. I was seeing tons of doe, tons of young bucks that were chasing. I think I saw one mature buck in West Virginia. In Missouri, I actually could have gotten it done. I had 2 opportunities on mature bucks, and both times it was like in the last 2 minutes of legal shooting light. And I just both times I didn't feel good about the shot, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to risk it. So, um, but it's been interesting because, and I think it correlates a little bit to CWD policies across the country
Really?
because, like I said, I've hunted North Carolina, Missouri, West Virginia, and in all 3 states there's just a ridiculous amount of doe. And the reason I think there's a ridiculous amount of doe is nobody's shooting them anymore. Because like where I hunt in North Carolina, for years I would tag out on does. I love shooting does. I love eating deer meat.
Yeah.
But this year I've only killed one because if I kill a deer in the counties that I hunt in, because they're primary CWD zones, I have to debone the deer and bury the carcass on the property in order to bring it home. I can't bring
What?
it home and clean it. I have to debone it while I'm there. So like if your family's at home waiting on you and it's
Yeah.
early season, and it doesn't get dark till 8, are you going to shoot a doe at last light? No, because you don't want to do all that work. And I think that's happening to a lot of people. So but more than anything this year, and it was the same in the Midwest as it was here, we had a mass crop like I've never seen before. I mean, I was about to break my ankles several occasions walking through the woods. And I think there was just so many acorns, and a buck didn't have to move very far to eat. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've said it 1,000 times. I hate the rut personally. I've never had really many good experiences. I like to be able to pattern them. Like I was telling you earlier about that buck that I had that's showing up every single day. I like that. Even if he doesn't show up when I'm there, I know he's still around, and I'm looking at my cameras I think one of them sends it every 3 hours. The others send every hour. So every single hour, I'm at least looking at one camera, trying to be like, all right, this buck showed up at this time, or these deer come in at like right now. I could tell you if I had food at this one spot, the does would be in there in about an hour and a half, and they'll stay maybe an hour and a half, and they leave, and then they come back.
Yep.
I like that because I don't want to go to a spot and be like, oh well, and this is where Jordan comes in, is I don't want to go somewhere and be like, oh well, there's nothing there, because he's told me before, dude, just go. You really never know what's going to show up. But I don't feel like I hunt the rut. I either don't hunt it right, or I'm just not good at it. Because in my mind, what I've been taught is like if you rattle, they come running to it. If you hit the bleat can, they come running to it. If you do a tendon grunt, they come running to it. I've done all of that. And the only time a can has worked for me was when I shot that doe this year. I was just playing around, hit the little meh, and then they come running down the hill to me. And I'm like, there's no way that worked. So
yeah, I've had a lot of success in the rut in years past. This year I didn't, but I think like with the rut, it's all about like when I was in West Virginia and I was there for 6 days, had 5 all-day sits. It was 11 degrees, 40, 50-mile-an-hour winds. We were still seeing a lot of deer, and I was doing all-day sits. And for me, the rut has always been about history. Like if you've hunted a property more than a couple years, and historically they're running them through this funnel, through this pinch or whatever, the rut can be so boring. It can be so, why am I here? Why am I doing this? And then boom. And for me, the tactic to kill a deer in the rut is just being mentally tough enough to sit there and have the time to sit there longer than anyone else. Because, you were talking about cameras too. I think cameras, I run 36 cell cameras, so I can't act like I'm against them. Dang. But I think they've also made us all really bad hunters, because again, if you historically know that this is a good spot, the bucks are hitting this scrape on this date, even if they're not on camera, you should go. And I'm a sucker for it too. Like if I don't have anything on camera, I will go in with such a bad attitude that I'm less aware of my surroundings, that a deer might skirt past me and I not know it because I've got such a bad attitude thinking that there's not a deer there. So I think cameras are a great tool, but they've also, I think, made hunting less fun.
Yeah, I mean, one of my spots where I was telling you earlier about those two big bucks I've got, there's another one that's this nice 10 that I would have shot. He showed up in daylight last Monday, never gave me a shot. What's funny about it, and this is where I feel like it was a learning experience, is that there was a spike that was with him that was in front of the camera for 20 minutes, and it took 3 photos of him. That 10 point stayed behind the camera. He was well within range, but he never went in front of it. And I keep telling everyone that I talk to about it, I'm like, dude, if I didn't go that day, in my mind, all I would have thought was, oh, there's just a spike. Wouldn't have been a good sit anyway. And then that buck would have been right there 5 yards behind the camera. So, yeah, I mean, cameras definitely, I feel like they help if you use them right.
Yeah.
And don't let yourself fall into the, oh, well, I don't have a 200-inch deer on camera, so I'm not going to go sit. Dude, you never know. Now, down by us, unless you're hunting Atlanta or, a place where there are 200s, there's not going to be any 200s.
Yeah.
But yeah, cameras are helpful, but they hurt at the same time. So I completely agree with that.
Yeah, I think you got to be willing to like dive in. One thing that I've really tried to get better at the past couple of years is not just leaving a camera in a spot. Like if you're not getting deer on that camera, go move it.
Yeah.
And move it to another scrape. It may look like the best community scrape that you've ever seen. They might hit it for one day, but they're hitting the scrape somewhere in November. Go find that scrape, put it on it. I've got it. Like I'm not what you would call a mobile hunter. My game is like I've got probably 1,400 acres that I hunt in North Carolina, and I don't know how many stands I have out. I mean, I hang a stand for every scenario possible, and there's some I haven't hunted in years, but I usually have a stand close to where I've moved a camera to.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I try to do.
So one thing that I want to ask you about, because I've started accumulating more spots, right? And I've been noticing it's very difficult to be able to hit, because I have 3 private land spots. It's very hard for me to choose when I've got bucks on all 3 spots, or let's just say two different spots. All right. I can't seem to figure out how to decide where to go. So like, do you struggle with that? Like having the spots that you do, is it kind of like, oh, well, the wind is good over here, but I haven't had anything really showing up in a couple weeks, but the wind's questionable here. But yesterday, this 120, 130, hell, 150 daylighted. Where do I go? You know what I mean? Like, do you struggle with that?
I do sometimes. I think what I try to base it on is one thing I love about all the cell cams now is you can pull videos. And I think you can tell a lot more out of a video than you can a picture. And you
True.
can tell the demeanor of the buck. And like I sent a video to a bunch of guys this year. It was a really big buck that I wanted to go after. But every time he would walk by the cell cam, it's like he could hear the frequency of the camera or something going off. He would twitch and he would look at it. So he was like a super nervous buck.
Yeah.
And he ended up getting killed. I found out he got killed by the neighbor on my way home from West Virginia. But I try to base it on that. I try to analyze everything possible and see which deer do I think I actually have a chance at killing. And it may not always be the biggest, but yeah, I mean, you can look at wind and all that, but like we talked about in the Southeast, there's no such thing as a wind direction. I mean, I'm hunting a lot of hollers and a lot of, foothills and mountains, and it swirls. So I just try to use all the knowledge and I've been bow hunting for probably 20 years now, but I try to learn something every year from somebody else. And I try to, take what they do and put it to I don't do a lot of public hunting, but take what people use on public and use it on private. You know, be analytical, but also use your gut. Like sometimes I wake up and I'm thinking I'm going to one property and all I can think about is the other. And I'll literally change my route and go to that one. So, and I think your gut and hunting a lot of times, if you just use your instincts, can help you more than anything else. So.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have done that. I wouldn't say with much success. I'm still trying to figure it out, and that was kind of going back to like one thing Jordan asked me. I brought it up to Kurt, and he had a good point. Jordan, when I did his episode, was like, "How do you do podcasts every week and get these people on and talk hunting for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, and be able to confidently say like, what you think and all this other stuff when I've only been hunting for a small amount of time?" And I told him, I'm like, dude, I'm learning. Like, I don't know everything. None of us know everything, right? And that's why I always bring this sort of thing up, because it's like you're in North Carolina, I'm in Georgia. We're in basically, I'm not gonna say the same type of terrain and topography and stuff, but it's similar. Our deer are pretty much the same. And it's just, I feel like talking about stuff like that, you can sort of pick up on different ways that guys do things. Like you were saying, the wind swirls down here. Dude, last week I put my wind checker out and puffed it to my right. I watched that dust or whatever. go to the left, swirl, go behind me. And I'm like, that ain't right. And so I do it to my left and it goes straight northwest. And I'm like, how is this even happening? And it's true. I mean, I feel like our wind down here is one thing. You know, I hear guys talk about thermals and stuff. I've tried to play that, and it's just I feel like down here is different because our terrain changes so much
Well, and
compared
I
to other
think
places.
every time you go in the woods too, you got to be scouting.
Yeah.
And like the buck that I killed on October 27th, I was at that property the day before, and I was refreshing a couple bait sites, and I was walking out, and where I killed this buck, I have a stand 150 yards from where I park.
Mhm.
And when I was walking by, I was like, "Is that a scrape?" And there had never been a scrape in that area of this plot of land. So I walked it out, and I saw one scrape, I saw two, I saw three, I saw four, and it led all the way to the cutover. And I was like, that joker's bedding in there, and he's coming out, and he's hitting all these scrapes and heading out. So I was like, I need to put some corn here. That's just my southern instinct. And I was like, you
Yep.
know what? Maybe don't. Maybe don't change the area at all. Just go sit there. And he came out chasing a doe. And like I said, I had to make a quick decision. And from the time I saw him to the time I shot him was 6 seconds. But if I hadn't
Dang.
taken the extra time to look everywhere, I wouldn't have seen that scrape line
Yeah.
to go kill that buck.
Yeah, that's one big deal or one big thing I'm really wanting to get better at is actual woodsmanship. Like I can walk through the woods. I mean, the spot that I've got, the new spot I call it. There's probably about I would it's the spot with those two big bucks. I'd say there's about 5 or 6 shooters in there, right? When I went and scouted it, the spot that I'm hunting in this property has an entire circle around it, pretty much of nothing but rubs. And at the time, it was like November, so I'm like, dude, this is going to be money, right?
Yeah.
And the camera is showing me that it is, except they're all there at night. So, and it's a small spot, so I can't really move much. But just that alone was like, okay, so for future reference, when I'm hunting public or I'm going to a different spot or because we're looking at getting a 200-acre piece, 200-acre permission piece next year. It's like, dude, I'm gonna have to know this stuff, man.
Yeah.
I mean, looking, I think my biggest, the two things actually that I struggle with the most, maybe you can help me out with this, is when I'm walking through the woods and I look, I'm looking for scrapes or community scrapes or anything like that. I don't think I've ever found a community scrape yet. Every time I hear about it, people are always like, oh, just look for, like it's not the size of a car hood. And so I'll do that. And I see spots, but then there's no licking branch over it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
how do I find that?
I think when you're looking at scrapes, you'll find some, especially like middle of October.
Mhm.
The leaves have just started falling, and if you see one that's got a couple leaves in it, and then you see one that's got fresh hoof prints in it, doesn't
Yeah.
matter the size, because I think community scrape is probably an overused term. Because everyone does look for that giant, massive scrape. Like,
Yeah.
I think the best thing to look for is like which one has zero leaves in it and which one has the cutting motion of the hoofs in it. Because like I've got scrapes on my properties that are there all year,
Mhm.
but they don't hit them at all during October and November. And then they'll make these new ones. And, like the ones that I found the other day, I've hunted that, or when I killed that buck, I've hunted that property for 8, 9 years. There's never been scrapes there.
Huh.
So I don't know if there's like a great answer to this, but like I would look for the one that has zero leaves in it and the most like cutting in it.
Yeah. Okay.
But because I mean they'll make one and then never go back.
Yeah.
So
I've
like your
done that
community
once or
scrape
twice.
you're gonna see a lot of hoof prints in it. So
Okay. Well, I will remember that because I mean I know exactly what you're talking about
yeah.
because that spot with the big six, he was using the scrape I made last year all year long, and then he
Yeah.
made one 10 yards up from it, and I'm like, dude, there's a perfectly good one right here. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And so it's just a learning process. And the other thing I struggle with though is deer trails because to me, if I see an opening and I see a little bit of flattened grass, to me, that's a deer trail. But then I put a camera over it and I see one deer in a month. And this is all on public land, but it's like, is there a way to really say, okay, that's for sure getting used? Or is it kind of just,
That's not something I really pay a lot of attention to. I think on public, it is probably something that you need to pay attention to a little more. But
yeah,
I think the hardest thing for me to learn when I was a new hunter is to not hunt what I thought looked pretty. Because like,
meaning sign or terrain?
no, like, you know how you walk in woods and you'll go, oh yeah, this looks money. There is
Yeah.
going to be a big buck coming through here. A lot of times it's like, hardwoods and it's real open. I had to
Mhm.
learn to hang stuff in areas where I had two little tiny shots, like in real thick, nasty areas. And, spend time the day I hung it, clipping a few extra limbs or whatever. Cause like you just don't kill a lot of deer in big open hardwoods. Most
Yeah.
of the deer that I've killed have been in like thick, nasty undergrowth, right on the edge of cutover areas. And when I first started bow hunting, I would literally walk in the woods and I'd go, gosh, this is the most beautiful patch of woods I've ever seen. But it's real open, and a deer doesn't feel safe in a real open environment, especially not a big buck. So,
Which is
um,
crazy. Sorry. It's crazy because like you'd think they'd want to be able to see, but
yeah,
then they love that thick stuff. And I think that's why there's that many big bucks at this new spot because it's super thick on both sides. It's just one little clearing. And then there's a big wide open oak flat about 100 yards to my left. And then in front of me, another 100 yards, there's a huge marsh and they cross over that and come into where I'm at. And it makes perfect sense. I mean, if you really think about it, it makes a lot of sense. So, well, now I know what new stuff to look for.
yeah. And the other thing to do with scrapes, I've done this before, is muddy. I don't know if you've seen it. The camera they make that's $29. Have you ever seen that camera?
Yeah, I think I have one actually.
It's a phenomenal camera.
Yeah.
And we've all fallen in love with cell cameras. I think another good tactic to do is just when you find these scrapes in the woods, just put as many of those $29 muddies as you can on it. And it's crazy year after year, especially like when I'm hunting in the Midwest. Bucks will hit those exact scrapes the exact day
Hmm.
to the date. And it's like, how do they know?
Yeah.
But it's like I've known many people that have killed deer using that tactic where they'll, just using the history of the property. Like there was a deer here. He made it through this year. I know he's on this property. He hadn't been here all year, but they'll go hunt that spot, and by golly, they'll show up.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. I mean that I have seen that with that 6 point I was telling you about, which I kind of used him in that spot as like a testing ground this summer and last year. Um, and you're right. I mean, to the date, there was multiple different times that he would be like, the first 2 weeks of season, daylight every single day. And
yeah,
then I saw him one time, um, third week of season for us, I think. It's either third or fourth. And then he may have daylighted once or twice after that. And then he
yeah,
disappeared and now he's been gone this entire time. So it goes back to the camera thing, dude. Cameras are helpful, but they also aren't. So
yeah. I think they're a tool. I think what you said in the beginning about woodsmanship, like you've got to continually grow as a woodsman and use the tool as the tool it is,
yeah,
and trust your instincts, trust the history of a property. Like if you go in year one on a property and kill a big buck, congrats. That's hard to do.
hmm,
But like as you learn where the deer move, you can better set up stuff to be there when they're there. So
yeah. That man, I'm getting so hyped to go hunt this week now.
yeah.
I really am. I need this rain to go away. Well, look. So I know you're a little bit pressed for time, but I do want to ask you a couple things. Being in the, I guess, social media space and stuff, have you been following along with all these new bow launches?
Yeah.
So what do you have your eye on this year? If you were to get a new bow, what would you
Well,
be interested in?
so I bought the lift last year. Um, so my past four bows, I've had a Hoyt, a Bowtech, a Matthews, and then a Matthews. So I'm really not that impressed this year. I think a lot of the stuff, like the Lift X, to me looks like all they did was make the bow a little bit easier for the Bowtechs to, tune the bow or whatever.
Yeah.
The Bowtech, in my opinion, looks like the exact same bow.
Yep.
Now, last year's Bowtech was a hell of a bow.
Oh,
The
100%.
the only reason that I went, see, I'm not brand loyal. I go in and I shoot them all. Whatever one I like, that's what I shoot.
Hmm.
The draw cycle in the lift, everyone was hating on last year, and they're right. It
Really?
was not the best draw cycle. Um, the reason I switched to the lift or bought the lift was the weight because I'm not a big fan of carbon bows. My
Hmm.
Hoyt that I had was a carbon, and I don't know, I never really loved it. I thought it was super loud. Um, I think that I've heard a lot of good things about the new Hoyt this year. Um, Darton makes a good bow. Um,
Did you see that new Prime form that just dropped?
I don't think I've ever. So my bow tech around here that I go to, he's only like 5 minutes from my house. He's
Yeah.
not a prime dealer, so I don't think I've ever shot a prime, but they look like they're good bows. So
Yeah. I The reason I ask is because I've never shot a Prime either. All I've ever hunted with was, gosh, dude, I guess bear. That's probably the only bow I've actually hunted with.
yeah,
And I've had an obsession, and it was okay. Had some issues, got rid of it, and got the Whitetail Max I have back there. But I was looking at a lot of these new bows because the innovation side of things is really, really starting to kick off. I feel like, I mean, Hoyt now has the 5 different mods that you can adjust. The draw lengths in 1 inch increments, but it comes with the 1/4 inch. Matthews obviously is doing their thing, but this new Prime, it's so funny. The reason I brought this up is because as we were doing this podcast, I commented on MFJJ's video review of the new Prime. And I said on there, this might be the sickest bow I've ever seen. And the amount of people already that have commented on it, and one guy was like, sickest as in cool or sickest as in I'm going to throw up. I was like, sickest as in I want it. And every
yeah.
single comment under that so far has been, it's the ugliest bow I've ever seen, this and that. I'm like, dude, it's different. Do you want to keep seeing the same bows every single year with
Yeah.
different
Yeah, I think the
hands?
engineering is definitely getting better. I mean, you think about 7, 8, 9 years ago, the only thing bow companies cared about was speed. It was
Hmm.
speed, 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 speed. And like the new Hoyts out this year, they're saying they're just like so unbelievably quiet. The lift is very quiet. I'm sure the Lift X is quiet. The Bowtechs are always quiet.
Yeah.
To me, that's more important because when you look at IBO speeds, that's not what they're shooting.
No.
I'm shooting a 472 grain arrow at, I think it was like 286. So that's plenty fast to kill whitetail. And
Yeah.
for me, I'd rather have something that doesn't make them jump as bad because you never know when a deer is going to duck.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think the companies and the engineers are gearing stuff more towards let's stay around that 330 IBO, 320 is fine, but let's get quieter.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
and
in
as
my
far as what they look like or what you shoot, in my opinion, like on social media, that is the dumbest argument in the world.
yep.
Because if you are a new bow hunter, do not go buy a flagship bow. Go to your local bow tech and either Bear makes a great bow. They make
Yeah.
a great, full package bow. Find out if you even like bow hunting. Bow hunting is hard. bow hunting sucks most days.
Yeah, it does.
You know, and if you go invest $22, $23, $2,500 in a bow and you don't like it, this is not like a gun. You're not going to get your money back.
Yep.
So I always tell people that are new in bow hunting, like you could go up to my bow shop right now. Say you didn't buy the lift last year.
Mhm.
You could go buy a 1-year-old bow. They're transferring the warranty because of the limb issues. You could buy it used with everything on it for probably $1,200.
Yeah.
That's a lot better than 2,500, and you're getting a top of the line bow. So yeah, I mean, bow companies are the best marketers in the world. They've
Mhm.
gotten me many, many times. But shoot them all, see what you're comfortable with, and if you're grouping well, it doesn't matter how much the bow costs. So
Yeah, I mean, I had this conversation with somebody earlier this year when I got my bear, because that bear only cost me $600,
yeah,
and it shoots IBO 339, 70 pounds, and I can tell you, I bought that bow, went to my local shop about a week later because I wanted to shoot the lift because I was kind of in the market for either one, right?
yeah,
I was like, do I want to spend the 600 on this and save money and potentially get a bow? Because I've always been a huge bear fan, so I'm like, I really want to switch back. Or do I go get the lift, potentially piss my wife off, and then have a bow that all these accessories cost shit a quarter of the bow's price, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I get it. But so I got the bear, went up to the shop, and I told my buddies, I was like, hey, I want to shoot the lift to see if I'm really like if I'm missing out, right?
yeah,
Dude, and no knocking on the bow at all, but in my mind, I thought I was gonna draw it back, shoot it, and the whole universe was gonna
yeah,
open up for me, right? I shot it and I looked at my buddy that had a lift and I'm like, gotta be honest, bro, it's not much different. I was like, it's
yeah,
lighter. That's it. And if anything, the draw cycle is better on the bear and it's shooting. I'm sure this one's shooting a little faster, but again, speed doesn't matter. Like, look at the hunting public guys.
yeah,
They're the perfect example. They're shooting a single cam 320 foot a second bow with 600 grain arrows and they're still killing stuff. So I don't know. I've got buddies that have been pretty new to it too. Like we're talking a year or two. I tell them all the time, it's like, yeah, okay, these flashy bows are nice. And if you have the money and you want to get one, go for it. You could spend $500 or $400 on a year or two old bear or any of these bows, and you're still just as good. You can still kill a deer.
yeah,
So I don't know. It's just interesting to me because like again, I give my opinion on a bow on YouTube, and now people are like, "Oh, it's the ugliest bow. You're wrong. It's a piece of crap." And I'm like, have
yeah.
you even shot it? Have you ever even seen it in person? No, you haven't. So why all the negativity? It's just it goes back to what you said about TikTok, and I feel like it transfers over to a lot of different things. It's a cesspool. It's a necessary evil, but it's a cesspool.
Yeah,
So
I mean, the fact of the matter is, every single bow on the market right now is good.
mhm.
I mean, they're all very, very good. And your so-called influencers or your TV stars, they're shooting that bow because they're being paid a lot of money to shoot it. And they can probably pick which company they want to work with and everything.
Mhm.
But like, great example, the Drurys, they were with PSE for like 15 years, and
Yeah.
PSE made a great boat. Um, but the year that they left was also the year that PSE was having all the troubles.
Yeah.
So Matthews probably swooped in and offered them a sweet deal, and good for the juries have earned. Those guys
Oh, yeah.
actually hunt with Mark and Terry's nephew, and they have people look at what they do and they go, must be nice, but they work their butts off.
Yeah. People don't understand what they do.
Yeah,
It's
and
insane.
every deal they get, or any of those big guys, they have earned it, and they take so much crap from all these animal rights people and all that
Mhm.
stuff, and they're great ambassadors. So I don't care that they're making money to shoot it, but the only reason I say that is don't base your opinion on what somebody else says about a bow.
Yep.
My Bowtech I had, it was a Bowtech Revolt X. It was a great bow, but it just, I had it for 2 years and I had a couple of situations. It was a boat anchor. It was a very heavy bow and you could hold steady. But I had these two situations where I was at full draw for like a minute and started shaking. So I was like, I need to lighten up my bow. And maybe I'm getting older, maybe I'm becoming a sissy. I don't know. But
Yeah,
that was a big deciding factor for me with the lift. I mean, there was things I didn't like, there was things I did like. But yeah, shoot them all, see what you like.
yeah. I mean, that's a huge thing that people in the market for bows need to do. Because I mean, dude, when I was in the market, I shot this bow, I shot the Alaskan, I shot a new Darton, that Sequel 31, which I still to this day will tell anybody that's the best shooting bow I've ever shot by far. The draw cycle was nice, it was quiet, but it was also in a 20-yard enclosed range, and God knows how it feels out actually in the field. So I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things. Bows, I used to say back in the day, like when I first started this podcast, I say back in the day, it was 2 years ago, but I used to say all the time, oh man, you don't need to spend, and I still kind of say it, but it's a little different. You don't need to spend 600, 700, $800 on a bow. You can buy the one I've got that's 270 from Bass Pro and you can kill a deer. It's still true, but what I've learned is you buy the cheaper stuff, like the really entry level stuff, and use that for years, I guess, or try to make it as good as the others. You're going to spend a lot of time tuning and stuff will wear out. So that's the bigger thing I've noticed with, like, I guess the higher end stuff is, you don't really have to do that.
Well, bow hunting is all about replication. You want to be
Yeah.
able to do the same thing. That's why we shoot all summer. That's why we, spend so much time building arrows. I've got right now, I think I have 6 releases. I
Damn.
overanalyze everything, and I try to get better every year, as an archer. And
Mhm.
yeah, you can kill a deer with a cheaper bow, 100%. But like you said, and I think with all hunting equipment, replication is easier sometimes with the nicer stuff.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing that I spent money on last year, and I used to hate on people that would spend money on this, but I'm here to tell you it's the best thing I've ever bought, was the late season bibs and the late season jacket from Osseo.
Yes, dude. I am so glad you said that.
That stuff. So to picture this, I'm in West Virginia. It's a blizzard. I've got snow hitting me sideways. 11 degrees, 40, 50 mile an hour winds. Are my hands and feet cold? Yes. Do I have hand warmers and foot warmers? Yes. My core, I could have sat out there for days. It is the most incredible. And for years, I was like, I'm not spending that on camo. I'll just layer up. I'm sitting in that weather with the late season bibs and the late season jacket with one base layer. That's all I had on.
Good Lord, man.
And it was, and I wanted to test it to see, like, is it as good as I thought? And
Yeah.
it's incredible stuff. I think Joe Miles, and I'm not hating on Sitka, I'm not hating on First Light. I just think that to see a company come out of the South like Joe Miles has done, and really he listens to bow hunters. Like, he is constantly improvising and changing. Like, what I bought the late season jacket last year, and I noticed this year he took out the zipper would go all the way up, and the collar would kind of get in the way. It never got in the way of the string, but I'm sure somebody said that, and he changed it. So he listens to customers. I did have a zipper go bad, mailed it back. They sent me a new one. I mean, their warranty is incredible. I don't think patterns really matter, but I think when you're looking at, if you're hunting in very cold temps, buy the good gear.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Joe, I gotta be honest, man. Osseo and Joe and all that, they hopped on board with the podcast 2 years ago. Like, they were one of the first. I think they were actually the first company that was willing to partner up with us. And I'm talking, I was on episode like 30. And I was just like, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. I really like y'all's stuff. And now, 2 years later, Joe's become a good friend of mine that I can literally call or talk to anytime. And I am so glad that you brought that up, because every episode I'm like, all right, guys, when I do the intro and I do the partners and stuff, I'm like, all right, Osseo Gear, y'all know I talk about this every week, but I'm telling you this because it's really that good. And I don't see a lot of people using it as much as I would like to. And
I
I've
think it's
told this to
catching
Joe.
on. buddy of mine in Iowa, Zach Jacoby. I know he works with them and has like a discount code and everything. But I think bow hunters are the last people to change anything.
Yeah.
And Sitka's really good stuff. Like I said, First Light's really good stuff. Nomad, really good stuff. To me, the biggest difference is not the pattern. It's I don't know what they do with the interior of that stuff, but
Mhm.
I could not have been in a colder situation and I was
Yeah.
fine. So
Well, I mean, coming from, so like when I first started, I was wearing like Real Tree from Walmart,
yeah.
and again, it's so funny looking back, and I know you're strapped on time, so we can wrap it up with this, but coming from that and being like, oh, you don't need that high dollar stuff to now and being like, dude, okay, honestly, I know a jacket from Osseo is like 200 something bucks, but trust me, it'll last you a long time. The warranty is great and it's comfortable, it's warm, it's quiet, all of that.
And
It's
as a bow hunter, it flexes in the right places.
yep.
Like when you put on too much bulk and you have to layer up too much, you try to get the full draw and you're like
Hmm.
stuck and you can't get all the way back. With
Yeah.
this, only having to wear one base layer and it flexing and it keeping me warm like it should. I mean, it's like I'm early season bow hunting. So
Yeah. And I mean, look, have you seen Joe Miles's wall?
oh, he's in a he
I,
I've never actually I met him one time at Dixie Deer Classic.
yeah.
But I don't know him personally or anything. He just like how you can read people, and he just seems like a good human,
Oh yeah.
and that was a big part of it for me. Like, yeah, I want to support his company, and that. But being a good human only gets you so far. Your product has to match
Be
that,
good. Yeah.
and their product is. I won't wear anything else but that. So
Yeah, that's where I'm at. And like the reason I brought up his wall, man, if you see his wall, you'll realize he knows what he's talking about.
oh,
This dude is a monster killer. It's insane.
he does
Um,
it. I mean, I know he travels all over, but he does it in the swamps of South Carolina too. That is not. I've hunted in South Carolina many times. That is not easy.
no, not at all. I mean, he just killed 2 bucks, either 1 buck or 2 bucks in Mexico, and they're freaking studs. And I texted him and was like, dude, what, what is that? I was like, is that in Texas? He's like, nah, Mexico. And I'm like, dude, what? Let me know when you're going down there again. Like, I love
Yeah,
Mexico. So it's I'm just really happy that you brought up Osseo, man, because it doesn't get enough attention in my opinion. And I feel like as time goes on, they're really gonna start jumping up more and more and more because of how good it is. But like I said, man, I know you're strapped for time. So before we wrap up, is there any sort of shameless plug you want to give? I really appreciate you coming on. I know we scheduled this like 2 months ago and we almost had a little bit of a scheduling problem this morning, but I'm glad it worked out. But yeah, like tell the people who don't know who you are, where they can find you and what you've got coming up.
yeah. So I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. They're all just basement decorator. Um, I am not as active as I used to be just because family obligations and stuff. But
Mhm.
yeah, I've got a hunt coming up. I'm going to be in Texas in January, and hopefully be putting a lot of good content out. And I have fun with it. I don't take myself serious. I don't think I'm an expert. I try to have a comedic flair to it, and you know, I just I love it. Like this is. I never thought that I would ever do anything in hunting where people would want to talk to me or anything like that. It was kind of a dream of mine, and I feel like I've accomplished it. So if what I'm doing never gets any bigger, I don't care. Um, I love bow hunting, and anything I can do to help grow the sport, um, I want to be a part of it. So
Hell yeah, dude. Great way to end it. I love it. I love it. Awesome, dude. Well, thank you so much. And we need to do another one. All right. Once season's over, I'm wanting to get guests back on and talk about their season. So when you kill a giant, I don't know, Charles Beatty sized buck down in Texas, make sure to let me know. We'll
yeah,
set it up. All
definitely.
right.
You want to see my biggest one from Texas?
Yes, if you have the time.
Yeah. What time is it? I don't even know.
341.
Yeah, we're good.
Holy shit. Dude, that's such a cool deer. I love the split G3s. Look at that.
Yeah. And then here was my biggest bow buck from Texas.
Yep. Well, it's crazy how you can look at a buck and be like, that's probably from Texas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. It's a special place. I always tell people like where I go, it's my cousin's ranch, and it's
Yeah.
an 8,000 acre ranch. And it's not a hunting operation. It's not high fence, and it's different. I mean, there's just the deer population is insane. Like in Texas, they didn't even start counting how many deer were killed every year till like last year. Like you didn't even have to like you just tagged the deer. There was no like count every year. That's how many they had. So
that's crazy, dude. Well, thank you for showing us those bucks.
yeah.
That was
Yeah.
awesome. I love it when people do that. But awesome, man. Well, have fun with what you've got scheduled this afternoon. Hopefully it's good, whatever it is. And we will definitely set up another one.
Sounds good, man. Appreciate you having me on. I really
Yes,
do.
sir. Anytime.
Yep. Yep.